All right, I think we're off to the races. Good evening. This is the May 22nd, 2025 meeting of the Villa Park Bike, Pedestrian, and Transit Subcommittee. This is Alan Leishman. I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6:06 p.m. Commissioner Greco, could you please call the roll?
Yes, I can. Commissioner Amore?
Here.
Commissioner Leishman?
Present.
Commissioner Wagner?
Here.
Commissioner Greco, that's me, I'm here. And I see no public present.
Thank you, Commissioner Greco. Moving on to item 2, public comments. As Commissioner Greco hinted, there are no members of the public with us tonight, so we'll go straight to item 3, amendments to the agenda. Commissioner Amore, I think you had a couple proposed amendments.
They were pending the fact that I may be running late. See, I'm present. The agenda can stand as presented.
Okie doke. You did mention tabling item F, right? Since you didn't attend the meeting.
Yeah, there'll be no report on that.
Okay. So you're welcome to make a motion to table it if you'd like.
No, I may have to think of something to talk about.
Okay.
Well, you can also just say no report when we come to
right.
it. So, yeah.
All right. Seeing no amendments, let's move on to item 4, approval of the minutes.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of, this is Commissioner Amore from the meeting of April 24th, 2025.
All right. We have a motion to approve the minutes.
Sure, I'll second.
All right. Any discussion about the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes of the April 2025 meeting signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, the minutes are approved. Let's go on to item 5, business. Starting with item 5A, Bike Month. As everyone in this room is, I'm sure, already aware, we are about 3/4 of the way through Bike Month right now, but I thought it would be good for us to talk about the last upcoming event that we have, as well as any retrospective thoughts that have about the events that we've done so far. So starting with things that are coming up, Commissioner Wagner, I know you've put some work in to organize the bike registration event this Saturday. Is there anything you wanted to discuss about that?
I want to say it will be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. By the Historical Museum. 2 CSO officers will be there, and as I mentioned to you, I reached out to Trek Bike to see if they would maybe provide some giveaways or promotional material, and they will get back to us and let us know. So yeah, it was when I called them. They said, "Oh yeah, we know you do that every year, don't you?" And I said, "Yes." So I don't remember the guy's name that was a holdover from JNR Cycle, but
I believe it's Ken.
You're right, it's Ken. Yeah.
Well, it's good that there's some legacy knowledge there.
Right.
It's good to see.
And that's about it. There is a Facebook event page, and I know Riley has posted on social media a couple times. So
yeah, I've seen it show up on my feed a few times. Commissioner Amore?
Commissioner Amore, I also spoke to Trek today in regard to the previous owners had a repair station, as JNR had a repair station at the old Fuel and Creme site, and it still had the signage for JNR on it.
Okay.
So I brought it to their attention and asked, and they said they were going to go check it out and make sure that everything was working properly, that the tools and things that were there are still there, that the ones are original. And I will be there to volunteer on Saturday, and just need to know what time you want me there.
Yeah, I will be there as well.
I'd like to do a 2-hour shift, so if someone else is doing a 2-hour shift, I can do an opposite one.
I can trade off with you.
Okay, which 2 hours would you like?
I will start in the morning.
Okay, AL 10 to 12, MG 12 to 2. Okay, thank you.
And I will also be there in the morning, stay as long as needed unless I'm called away.
And I'll plan on bringing a few tools in case people need tune-ups of any sort. Cool. All right. Then moving to the Bike Month events that we have already done this month. First thing that we did this month, or tried to do, was bike walk to school day with North School. Unfortunately, there was a bit of miscommunication between the PTA and the school administration, and so the event really wasn't advertised to students, and so that was kind of canceled. Not really a whole lot of takeaways from that on my side, as largely out of our control, but I guess going forward we can try to make sure that everyone's on the same page, try to be a bit more active facilitators. Any other thoughts?
On that event specifically? Or?
Yeah, on that event specifically. Okay. Then the next event that we did was the Smart Cycling class organized by Commissioner Wagner. I was there to help out with that. We had a couple students attend, and it was very well received by those students.
Very modest attendance.
Yeah, a little bit disappointed to see the no call, no shows.
Right.
But I do think it's a great program for us to do in the community. Any thoughts about the Smart Cycling class?
No, they did ask if we wanted to do it in August, and August, and I said, I'll take a pass. So, I did attend an event up in Bensonville. I can talk about about that during commissioner comments.
Okay. Do you know when the next LCI training is going to be?
I don't know, but there is a person now with Ride Illinois who's in charge of that.
Okay.
Elizabeth Adamczyk.
Okay.
Yeah. She's an LCI, and yeah, I think there'll definitely be some coming up.
Yeah, I was looking at on the league's website, and I didn't really see any close to us for the remainder of the year. But maybe Ride Illinois will organize one. How do you spell Adamczyk?
ADAMCCYK, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
You know, I can send her, if you go to the Ride Illinois, she's listed as a member of staff, so
Okay.
you can find her.
I can track her down.
If you can't find her, let me know.
Will do. Cool. And then the most recent Bike Month event that we did was last night. We participated in the Ride of Silence. We had 6 riders, I think.
Who was the fellow with the gray beard I saw in the picture?
That was a gentleman named Lee that joined us from Naperville.
Yeah, in Naperville.
Awesome.
And there was at least one other person that was going to attend, but she didn't show up, so probably because of the weather.
Yeah. Yeah, the weather was not great. And the Elmhurst Bicycle Club postponed their Ride of Silence till this Saturday. And so I consider doing the same thing, but we of course have the bike registration event on that morning.
Right.
So
And apologies for not showing up, but I was at another event, and when I left that event, it was raining, and I thought to myself, my brakes aren't that great on that bike, and I would hate to be a target or a victim on a ride when we're honoring victims.
Fair enough. Yeah, honestly, I was impressed by the number of people that showed up. I figured most people would be scared off by the weather, but it was pretty typical of our previous rides. So I think that's a good sign. I think, if we have better weather next year, we might get an even better turnout.
I think that indicates how doing a simple slow roll ride, how easily it could be organized. If we would say, okay, the first Friday of the month or whatever, we're gonna do a slow roll family ride. And if we got the cooperation of the police department, we could probably do it quite easily. Just a thought.
Yeah. I think the police might be a little bit hesitant to,
If we had more people, yeah.
if we had more people, but also like committing to doing something every single month
Right,
versus
right.
once a year. But
Yeah, then it becomes an event, and do we have to fill out the event form, et
Yeah.
cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
But I'm not trying to say it's not worth pursuing. I think there is potential there.
It just might be a little more complicated than it was last night. Yeah.
Yes, for sure. Cool. Any other discussion about Bike Month? All right, let's go on to item 5B, the Illinois Walk and Bike Summit. Commissioner Wagner, I think you had a chance to attend.
I did attend, and it was my intention to prepare a report, but I just kind of ran out of time today. I went on May 7th, and it was well attended. The initial speaker at the beginning of the session, when everyone was together, was John Donovan from IDOT, and he was talking about a variety of things. There were 1,204 traffic fatalities in 2024. There is a zero traffic fatalities task force with IDOT. He mentioned that. They provide, and I think the deadline is June 26th. They have a Safe Streets for All grant program. IDOT does. The first session that I went to, they had there were 3 speakers. They were from the city of Chicago, and they have a Safe Ambassadors program. So they have bike ambassadors, and the bike ambassadors go out and they do training, and they provide some equipment, and they do kind of like a smart cycling class as well. That was interesting. I thought, well, it might be interesting to see if we might want to develop some sort of bike ambassadors program. I don't know. Then there's a group called Out Our Front Door.
Oh, you don't know if that? Okay, yeah. Tell us about that.
Yeah, that was just a really amazing Out Our Front Door, how that has grown. You apparently know about it.
Yeah, I was at a bike swap or something and found out
Yeah,
about them. I haven't been able to participate in any of the events.
Yeah, they're a bike camping and bike event group, and they go all over the place, and they try and make it available to everybody at every skill level, at every endurance level. And just to hear them talk, how Out Our Front Door has grown so much, it was really amazing. The next speaker was about bike walk legislation. There was some talk about the bipartisan infrastructure law.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that last bit?
Say again.
Could you repeat that last bit after out the front door, outer front
So
door?
there was a talk about bike walk legislation,
Ah, okay.
and there was some talk about the bipartisan infrastructure law. And of course, a lot of funding is being cut, just, dramatically. But the good news is that they felt that there is still bipartisan support for bike and walk projects across the country. So, let's see here. They talked about Senate Bill 2111, which is the Idaho stop legislation. I don't know where that's at. Let's see here. Senate Bill 2247, which is the Micro-Mobility Safety Act. Senate Bill 2285, the definition of a bicycle.
That just went to the governor's desk today.
What's that?
The bicycle definition just went to the governor's desk.
Right, yeah, it made it, so in Illinois, I can't, trying to remember the definitions, there's, there's a distinction. You're permitted, and I can't remember the other term, but they want to make it, other states, where you're permitted and it's an accepted use, or permitted and intended. So in Illinois, you're permitted, but it's not intended. In other states, bicycles are permitted and intended to be on the street. So it matters in terms of if there is some sort of if there's some sort of crash. So it's more advantageous. It moves us closer to parity with automotive drivers. So, permitted and intended, and as Commissioner Leishman mentioned, that's moved forward.
Just for clarification, Illinois currently permits bicycles on the road.
But we're
and
not
this is-
intended, but it's
and
not,
this
yeah.
is legislation to change the wording to be
To make
intended.
to make us more like other
Okay.
other states. Transportation.
There's also some ambiguity in the existing law about like what is a bicycle.
Okay.
And so I think the definition has been expanded to like more clearly include things like recumbent bicycles as well as like
Okay.
electric bicycles and stuff like that.
I'm skipping over a lot of stuff here.
The highlights are fine.
During the lunch, there was I believe his name was, Tom Flood. He's actually a Canadian, and he's done a lot of work to change people's perception of bicyclists. He played a couple, provincial safety ads, public service ads, and he kind of turned it on its head. To say, okay, we're permitted, we're permitted to be here. It's if you would see some of the content he's produced, you'd be impressed. And I mentioned this to Tricia Little, that someone from her motherland was very doing some great work. Let's see. Yeah, permitted, not intended. Then there was a guy, and I can't remember his name, I have his card at home. He's from People for Bikes, And I did not know that People for Bikes was actually created by the bicycle industry. So, kind of changed my impression a little bit about People for Bikes, but he gave a really interesting presentation about e-bikes. And there are, of course, Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3. But there's also something they call OCEV, which is a out-of-class electric bicycle, which kind of is hard to classify. And the industry is working on creating a better standard for e-bikes. I was going to ask him if he could maybe share his PowerPoint presentation with me, because it was very informative. E-cargo bikes will become more prevalent. There are trade and tariff implications for bikes. Some states have a rebate program for e-bikes, which is interesting. And I think that, their Senate Bill 1521 is an e-bike rebate program in the General Assembly. I don't know where it's at. And then I mentioned to Commissioner Leishman that I went to I can't remember the name of the title of the breakout session, but they talked about Project Sidewalk. And they mentioned Villa Park. And so I was very interested in that. And then the second part of that program was can't remember what he's an academic. They're developing a program. It's kind of based on critical mass. It's a swarm. They call it it's swarm based, like a swarm of insects, but it's technology that has like a moving GPS, and bicyclists with on their, I guess if you have a specific app, you can kind of hone in on that moving GPS, and you can create a swarm. And the idea is, it's still very much in development, but the idea is to, like they try and do for automotive traffic, to try and, for more efficiency, so they could maybe synchronize traffic signals. They could also, maybe you could synchronize with a train schedule or something, Amtrak or whatever. That was just really interesting.
It's also just safer to ride with other people than it is to ride
That's
with yourself.
exactly their point. It's just like the natural world. Swarms tend to help.
Oh, I need to investigate this. One of my lifelong goals is to ride across the country. And if I end up doing it alone, it would be really nice to have that kind of technology to meet up with groups.
He called them urban attractors, and he used the term flocking. They were trying to imitate critical mass. Urban attractors help micro-mobility riders form swarms. And there could be synchronization with Metra, Amtrak, traffic signals. And they're looking for maybe groups who are interested in collaboration or trying out the prototype. So,
Do you know if anyone from the Elmhurst Bike Club was there at Lobby Day?
Kim Messina was there.
Okay.
Yeah, she was there. I didn't see anybody else there from Elmhurst Bike. So
That just seems like a natural guinea pig for it.
Right. So the person he's part of a team, but they're developing. His name is Juan Salamanca, and I have his email. There's a lot more, but I'll type up a report. I have it was $50 for the, and then I got a room to stay overnight because I was just too tired to go back. And I got the cheapest rate I could, but with taxes and fees, it jacked it up to $172 to stay overnight. So those are kind of the highlights. I was there the second day, but the second day was primarily lobbying. And I had to get back, so I had something pressing that was happening, so I definitely had to be back home.
Well,
But it was worth it.
Yeah.
It happens every other year. Most of them, well, some have been up here. One was at UIC. I went to one at Bloomington Normal, and I can't remember where else I've been to. But, I went to, they had one in Champaign-Urbana. So they try and move it around the state because there are a lot of, and I sat with some guys who were on the advisory, the Springfield Bike Advisory Commission. And their mayor spoke, and she revealed some things that they didn't even know about. So plans that they didn't know about, so. It was interesting, it was well-attended. And while I was there, I talked to someone from Civil Tech, and these masted data collectors, they are, the question I asked him was, do they collect bike and pedestrian information? He assured me they absolutely did. So, and you may have, I don't know if you saw the post where they put one by Lufkin Park, because that's kind of going to be a problem area. It's, people with kids are coming and going, and they need to find a safe way for them to access the park, because you have to go up to Jackson for a crosswalk. People are crossing in the middle of Ardmore, so.
Yeah.
So, sorry that was a little disjointed, but
No.
I appreciate the opportunity to go, and I will absolutely submit everything, and I'll submit a written report.
Well, thank you for attending and
Okay.
reporting back to us. Item 5C, bus route to Willowbrook High School. Commissioner Greco, you asked for this to be added?
Yeah, I just, we get a preview of the minutes for the DuPage District 88, the high school DuPage District 88 board meeting, because I work there, so I get what they call a board recap, and it's like the minutes. And I happened to notice something I'd seen before, and, several years ago, so it's obviously not been resolved yet, and it has to do with what they wanted to do, and this is what they did several years ago. The recommendation was that the Board of Education certify that the hazardous conditions in 2 areas remain unchanged, and that walking continues to constitute a serious hazard to students due to vehicular traffic. The 2 locations are along Reardon Road from Ardmore Avenue to Monterey, originally approved October 19th, 1985. Along Ardmore Avenue from Roosevelt Road to Canterbury, so that would be the south side.
That would be Brandywine.
Yeah, approved February 24th, 1986. So I thought I wanted to get them in the minutes. If I get some bandwidth, I will see if they're in any of the current plans, if there's any. Well, I'll try to find out more information about specifically what the school thinks is the problem, and then I'll see if there's any plans with any of the construction that's happening around there to change that up. I did not find anything in the 2018 Villa Park Bike and Pedestrian Plan. I thought I had, but then I realized it was something different.
I'm guessing that this probably has to do with busing, because the state regulates how far away a student must live before they are required to be provided buses. And most of our districts around here are small enough that basically all of the students should be able to walk to school. But the exception to that is if they are crossing a dangerous area. So like, for instance, I know up at North School, the train tracks there are considered a dangerous crossing. So that even though students that attend North School, the ones that are south of the tracks, even though they're only, half a mile away or something like that, which would normally not qualify for busing, the district does have to provide buses for those students so that they don't have to walk across the dangerous crossing. So I'm guessing that's why they're designating those areas as dangerous.
Okay, the Roosevelt Road one, Ardmore, south of Roosevelt, definitely makes sense because they have to cross Roosevelt Road. The light has it been upgraded? I'll have to check on that. So that could be that. The Reardon Road, though, from Ardmore to Monterey, I'm not sure there's no major streets there. It could be the missing sidewalks there.
Missing sidewalks, yeah.
That one's probably the missing sidewalks. It's a little difficult because some of that is unincorporated. It's kind of intermittently unincorporated in Villa Park, so. All right, yeah, I'm happy to discuss it more, but I really just wanted it in the record because it's been a concern for so long.
Yeah. No, thank you for bringing it. Commissioner Wagner, did you have something you wanted to add?
Well, when you mentioned Bush, there was a resident who came to the last Traffic and Safety Commission meeting, but he was talking more about the PACE bus. He was actually objecting to it going down Washington. And there's added traffic on Washington, mainly because Madison is closed because of the big construction that's going on there. But that should end in, I'm gonna think, in about 3 weeks. But he was there for public comment, complained about the added traffic, but then he also complained about the PACE bus. So.
That was at a board meeting, did you say?
No, traffic and safety.
Oh, okay.
Traffic and safety.
No, great way to add more traffic on that road. Get rid of the PACE bus.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. I wanted to talk and to say, my mom used to ride the PACE bus all the way from the Green Line to the closest stop to our house on Washington. And then she would take the bus back again. And she absolutely depended, my mom actually liked taking the bus, so.
Yeah. Commissioner Morey?
So, Commissioner Moore, in regard to Reardon, I just wanted to let you know that as a newly elected York Township trustee, I've had conversations with our new village president to cooperate more with combined projects. So should there be an initiative to increase safety along Reardon, that we'll be more than willing to discuss it with him.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, and I want to talk to Highway Commissioner Caring, because there's an issue on Euclid, and it's multiple agencies. Part of it's township, part of it's Oak Brook Terrace, and part of it's Villa Park. And there's a resident on Euclid, do you know Mr. Devens? Okay.
No.
Yeah, he wanted the village to create a cul-de-sac there. But I'm digressing a lot, but anyways.
And just for the record, the highway commissioner is a Villa Park resident, and he
Yes.
lives in that area south of Jackson near Boulder.
I know him very well.
All right. Let's move on to item 5D, Villa Avenue Improvement Project. Commissioner Morey, you asked this to be added?
Yeah, there's a couple of things, and some things actually came up today. So the the Villa Avenue Improvement Project, there was actually two of them on the record. One is a project where they're going to redo the bridge near the golf course. I believe the streets are Julia near Villa where the bridge is. That's going to be redone. And the original Villa Avenue improvement project was from St. Charles to North Avenue. And there was a combined effort because Elmhurst has an interest in it. Villa Park is doing the engineering and doing the heavy lift as far as getting the construction done, and Elmhurst is just reimbursing their percentage of whatever is jointly occupied. So today I noticed that there's a new Villa Avenue improvement project, and they've extended it south from St. Charles to, and I can't remember, and I left my phone in the car, but it's a street, starts with a W. It's like 3 blocks south. Is it Wrightwood, maybe?
Washington?
No, it's not that far south. I think it's Wrightwood, if I'm not mistaken. It's north of the Prairie Path. So they now have extended the project boundaries south of St. Charles. So I was over there for another thing, and I saw Mark McLaughlin, and I said, is this, because everything has now changed in the project outline, in the Villa Parks project listings of where they're at. And I said, I have advocated in the past to have a protected bike lane along Villa. Does this mean that we now could take another look at it? And what brought this to my, reason I was over there in the first place is that the original plan was that they were going to cross the Salt Creek Greenway Trail at Thomas. They're going to cross Villa at Thomas to the west side of Villa, widen the sidewalks up to where, just past Rose Paving, the new Rose Paving where I think it's 1st or 2nd Avenue comes in at Elmhurst, and then cross back over. They wanted to put those flashing high visibility lights like they have at the Prairie Path. And so in their original plan, I had taken exception to the fact that using the west side would cause trail users to have to cross Maple, which is a very busy street, people getting to and from the train station, Beach, Plymouth, and Vermont. And now the drivers going in and out of Rose Paving puts all those conflicts to the trail users. And I noticed at the corner of Villa and Maple, one of the other concerns I had was that there was 2 fire hydrants in the way, that they would have to figure out how to incorporate those in, because if you widen the sidewalk at one location south of the tracks, you're going to have the existing fire hydrant right in the middle of the path. And there's 4 mature parkway trees. In fact, there's up to 6 going as you go north in that area that it would have to be removed to make room for the path. That would be a concern for the ECC. So today I saw that one of the parkway trees had been removed. So I said specifically to Mark, was that a tree that might have been damaged in an accident or was diseased, or do you know if it was taken down, or were they doing site prep for the project and just had to delay taking the rest of the trees down because of all the storm damage that they were working to clean up? There's, from a week ago, there's still trees that haven't been attended to in the parkways where people had piled up debris. So he said he'd look into it. So, because I pulled up my Google Maps and you can see the tree from when the Google Earth took it however many years that was, and it was still appeared to be healthy. I noticed when a tree's dying, because I had one in my street a few years ago, on a windless sunny day, just fall over out across my driveway in an area that my kids normally play. So they're going to look into it. But again, as I have advocated for in the past, I believe the safest option for trail users is to build protected bike lanes up and over the tracks on the east side of Villa between Thomas and I think it's 1st or 2nd alongside that paving reclamation plant, since the village owns or maintains a portion of that property. And I'm just, trying to figure out just how much of input we should put from us to have our opinions, taken into consideration. So that's one of the reasons I brought it up. It's not an actionable item for tonight. It's just a matter of discussion. I'd like to see if we can have a new look and see if they've got revised plans. I've talked to the Traffic and Safety Commission, and it mentioned like, the guy who runs it, his name escapes me at the moment, Traffic and Safety. But he is also a cyclist who thinks that the protected bike lane, if one exists, should be on the east side to avoid the conflicts with the 4 cross streets. I've given up on the pedestrian underpass at that location because it would have to be, to get the best possibility, it'd have to be an Elmhurst project. The Elmhurst would have to take the project on. And it's been 15 years now, I think it's been, and they still haven't gotten that overpass across Route 83 that they've been wanting and trying to get, in between North Avenue and Lake Street. They'd have to acquire private property, and it's a non-starter. It would be the best option, but if we get a pedestrian underpass at the metro station at some point, whether it's alongside Ardmore or at the station itself, we could always put wayfinding signs for people at Villa who are blocked to direct them at least down to the next major road to get around instead of, because our board member, our committee, Wagner knows full well, riding around in the buses, how many times there's a stop train there that doesn't move. And, when you're in a vehicle, at least you can turn around and go the other way if it's, how many, 50 feet out of those buses? Those are a little harder to turn around, but most vehicles can turn around.
Yeah, you're not supposed to back it up unless you're assisted.
Right.
Yeah. Well, yeah, at least a couple times a year, we have to excuse a whole busload of kids for being late because the bus was late.
So that's why I'm saying we may have another opportunity for input for design. I'd like to follow up with, officially, with after discussion and see if that's something we'd be willing to take on, just so we provide input. For example, I was going to mention this in commissioner comments, but at the board meeting Monday, they are going to look into e-bikes and drawing up requirements within the village of what's allowed and what isn't and where.
E-scooters.
E-scooters. But they did mention a class, I think it was class 3, that weren't going to be allowed.
They're not allowed, yeah.
But I see e-bikes all over the place, and a lot of them are running around at night without lights, going way fast.
Well, doesn't mean it's legal, but
No, but they are going to explore some type of
enforcement
ordinance to regulate those, and an ordinance would include some type of enforcement mechanism.
So I'm sorry, I drifted a little bit. Who's considering the ordinance?
The board, they elected to look into it.
Villa Park Board.
Thank you.
Villa Park Board, yes. On Monday, it would be in their minutes, or on YouTube.
It almost seems like it should be a countywide would be more effective. But
Right.
I mean, we have to start somewhere. But yeah, we have to start somewhere. But yeah.
But I think this had more to do with on-street
Oh,
usage.
okay.
I think that they're already restricted on the trails.
Class 3R. And there's legislation, the legislation's been passed that regulates e-scooters.
And I had pictures on my phone, but unfortunately I left the phone in the car as far as the tree and everything. But I can get you, stuff printed out that I can distribute around for the next meeting. I follow up with.
I trust you that the tree is chopped down now.
It is. It's
I don't need
It ain't coming
photographic
back.
evidence.
I don't see any effort to replant one.
Yeah, so is there any action you would like the board to take at tonight's meeting?
I'm open to suggestions.
Okay.
I mean, the the street definitely needs improving. I mean, the pavement there's a lot of potholes. You know, that can be hazardous to to anybody on a bicycle. But just the same, you know, if they're gonna make improvements, you know, I'm old enough to remember when that road was one lane in each direction with on-street parking, and when you got north of the tracks, it was 35 miles an hour. Back when they improved it, they widened it and lowered the speed limit by almost 50%.
Yeah, that's a whole other problem. They put the sign up with a lower speed limit, but they didn't design the road to slow down traffic,
Right.
which is, a lesson we've learned a long time ago, but still don't seem to learn. Now, we have put our comments in every time there's been a public meeting regarding Villa Avenue and Ardmore. So, I mean, action has been taken.
I'm wondering if they're gonna have to have a new public meeting since they expanded the limits of the project.
I expect they will. Yeah.
Because I know
I mean,
they
it's
had
still-
at least one.
According to the website, it's still in. I don't even know if it's in phase 1 engineering yet. So
I think it's Mark told me it was in design.
I normally after a design is decided, like they still have to bring it back for like
Right.
public meetings and
Right.
approval and stuff like
Right.
that. If you'd like, I'm happy to reach out to some of our
Public Works people.
some of our contacts and staff and see if I can get some more details about what the
Yeah.
status of the project is and.
Right. Yeah, my thoughts are, especially since it's in design, now is be the perfect opportunity to make recommendations that would be, within our purview.
Okay, I'll take that as an action item.
Thank you.
All right. Let's go on to item 5E, the 4th of July parade. Commissioner Moore, you
Yeah.
also added this one.
I asked, we've attempted to do something for the subcommittee at the 4th of July parades in the past, and it was basically inspired in 2020 when the 4th of July parade, I believe, was canceled, and the do-it-yourself, the Villa Park Moms did their own bike parade. And they had so much participation that we thought that there may be some interest in having a bicycle-themed parade where kids decorated their bikes and joined us during the 4th of July parade. Well, that kind of never really happened. We got some support, maybe a dozen or so. I think it was one year we had about a dozen participants. We petered out from there. But the VFW also, who organized the parade, whenever we would want to be a part of it, we didn't have to pay an attendance fee, being a part of the village. So if nothing else, if we have a presence there, just to advertise who we are, and whoever one of us, if we don't get any, if we don't advertise for public participation, we're not going to get it. But if we don't get it, there can still be members of our subcommittee out there advocating for what we do and to get people to have a better understanding of what we do. And I would even be willing to donate the candy. I've got a source for candy that everybody likes, and it's really good.
So what are you proposing? Like, what kind of presence would you like to have at the parade?
Well, that's another item open for discussion. Would that be of interest to anyone to participate, to get it advertised, maybe have a new way of presenting it for people who might want to be in the parade instead of sitting on the sidelines watching?
I think any way that would draw any attention would require a fair amount of effort on our part. So we just have to be aware of that.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I've done it, I think 3 years now, maybe just 2 years. Trying to organize the bike parade component of it, and I've been pretty disappointed by the lack of attendance that we get every time.
Right. Just as you were during the bike classes we had a couple of Saturdays ago. That was
Yeah.
not a shining moment for our outreach. But then on the other hand, I spoke to Riley, our PIO, today because I couldn't find anywhere on any village website about the event on Saturday. It wasn't even on the village calendar. And so, I guess maybe we're having a messaging problem. And she said she promised to follow up, and she thought that it might have been her fault. But I said, don't take the blame. I mean, maybe we can get the information out to you properly. But she did say that she would make an effort to get it back in the forefront so people would find out about it.
Yeah, the police department created the Facebook page.
Right.
Yeah.
And there've been a couple posts about it, so.
Yeah.
But shouldn't there have been a broader messaging? I mean, if the police department is doing, they don't act independently. They're still an arm of the village government.
I think for social media they do act independently of the village sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
I mean, trust me, I'm gonna be at that parade either walking or watching it go by, one way or the other.
Well, yeah, York Township, you could be in it. Yeah.
Commissioner Wagner?
Yeah, I've been at the Villa Park Parade, with a bike contingent, I think the first year we had, I don't remember how many people we had, not a lot. But then we rode with the classic bikes, I think.
Yeah.
We did that last year.
Tim Jonas.
So, yeah, I'm not sure, yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't be interested in doing it again.
Okay, that's fine. And then you make a valid point also. Maybe I could talk to the people at York Township. They have, to see if they'd want to participate in the parade.
Yeah, if you've got candy to burn,
Yeah, right.
we can find someone to throw it out.
It's not a throw a thing, it's a give a thing.
Oh,
You hand it out.
okay. Let's go on to item 5F, DuPage Rail Safety Council update.
Okay, and I did think of something to talk about.
Of course you did, Joe.
Of course I did. So, at my request, as a member of DRSC, Monday, the village cow related to getting two vendors who both market technology that give real-time information on train activity at rail crossings. Because in regard to the Great Separation Feasibility Project, my main concern with that project is that the data that they used in their presentation was ICC data that was available in 2018, which could mean that it was accumulated in 2017. So the two vendors showed up, because since then, trains have gotten longer, train frequency has increased, and of course now with what's going on in the economy right now, you'll probably see less containers moving back and forth for a time, but that's sure to come back at some point. So these projects are enormously expensive, and once the village makes an informed decision, we're going to be spending a lot of money. So based on getting them to make an informed decision, these two different vendors came out, gave a presentation, and we'll see where that goes from there. But I appreciated them taking the time. They both came from out of state. They're both vendors that were known to me through DRSC. And then as an update, the Operation Lifesaver safety message that the Park District puts in their student handbooks, based on our working to get them to add it because of all their facilities that were within, where crossing tracks has to be, a priority getting. That was a test case. And we finally got a state rep to sponsor it in legislation so that it could go statewide in school districts K to 12. And basically the message is written without the narrative in the first paragraph, but it bullet points. And it passed unanimously in the House about 4 weeks ago. and it's now in the Senate. It's being held up in committee right now. One of our chief co-sponsors is our state senator, Senator Susie Klowiak Hilton. Another is a Republican senator from downstate. It's being held up in the Education Committee right now. They just had a conversation with the chief of staff on that committee, and we're gonna have a group call next week because they're gonna be in Springfield throughout the 31st closing session. But hopefully it gets the legislation out of committee and for approval by the Senate, and legislation may be passed to become effective 2026. And that basically takes that legislation that's in the the recommendation in the Parks and Recs handbooks and puts it in student handbooks throughout the state, K to 12. And school districts can vote to opt out if they choose to not have it in the handbooks. But it's a minimal expense because most of these handbooks are digital nowadays anyway.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's not going to require a lot of printing costs. So that's the end of that report. And I did not make our DRSC meeting Saturday because I was at spring sweep, so I have nothing to report from that meeting.
Okey-doke. Thank you.
Well,
Item 5G, community outreach. Any community outreach we want to discuss besides all the bike month stuff?
This is Commissioner Wagner. Commissioner Morey mentioned the bike maintenance, bike repair station that's now at Tribute. And I thought it would be, if we want to promote the Bike, Pedestrian, and Transit Subcommittee, maybe we could, obviously, maybe not this year, but next year, budget something where we could put maybe a second one in town, maybe one for the Great Western Trail. It would have been nice if maybe we could get naming rights for the one at Tribute, I don't know.
So following up on Commissioner Wagner's statement, I was recently in Oak Park, and I forget the name of the street, but I have pictures of it, where they have a fabulous bike repair station. That's right where the 290 goes, and I forget the name of the overpass, but it's the overpass between Harlem and Austin where there's no exit ramp. And I've got pictures
The overpass
of it.
between where?
There's an overpass that goes across 290 that's between Austin and Harlem, but there's no exit there. They voted not to put an exit there, but there's like room for an exit there, an on-ramp and an off-ramp, but they didn't put it in. But I'll get the street.
Is it Richland?
No, I thought it was Home Avenue. I'm not, because it's more of a smaller street. But I'll get the information. And if I can follow up, because I've got friends that live in Oak Park, and they can find out who designed it or marketed it, maybe I can get that information to you for the next meeting.
Is it beyond Oak Park Avenue?
I believe it's west of Oak Park. Do you get down that way once in a while? You can.
I used to get down there a lot.
Yeah. I'll find it. I'll get it to you. I'll text you the information when I get it.
I used to hang out in Columbus Park.
Oh, my dad played golf there all the time. I learned to swim there.
What made it so great?
It was a multi-station, and it wasn't just like some tools and it wasn't just tools and an air pump. They had a place where you could fill water bottles. You know.
I think I've seen it. I've seen it. I think, don't they have
And there's an awning over it.
Yeah, I've been there. I've seen it.
But next time I go by there, I go there at least once or twice a week. I'll take better pictures of it.
Cool. Any other community outreach? All right, we'll move on to item 6, commissioner comments. Start on my right with Commissioner Wagner.
I will just mention that I was at I spoke, gave a little bike safety talk at the Bensonville Youth Coalition, and the culmination of the talk was they gave away over 20 bicycles, helmets, and locks to youth in the community, and I asked them what the criteria was, and they told me that it was individuals who had a high rate of truancy. And I was a little puzzled by that, but someone said, well, maybe they're truants because they don't have a way to get to school. So Yeah, I was scratching my head about that, but it was a good event. They gave pizza, so, and the Bensonville Youth Coalition, it's at Fremd High School? It's the school districts, it's the village, they all have folks that are part of the youth coalition and they contribute funding, so.
Nice.
It was a nice event, I appreciated being invited,
That's great.
and that's all I have.
Commissioner Greco?
Nothing for me.
Commissioner Amore?
Nothing other than that, I intend to go to the next board meeting and find out what they want to do about the e-bikes, because that may also
Scooters.
be. Well, but they discussed, what guidelines they're gonna comment on and make recommendations on, so it may just be e-scooters, or may broaden that. They may want to address e-bikes at the same time, so that they can have a comprehensive policy covering everything.
Fair enough.
That's it.
Cool. I have no comments this evening, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that
To
motion.
adjourn.
I'll be second.
We'll give it to Bob and Joe.
All right, all those in favor of adjourning, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, we will adjourn the meeting at 7:07 p.m.
Awesome. I gotta get my phone.